All right, everybody, we should be live. We'll make sure that's actually the case. I should probably turn off my system volume here. Whoops. Yeah, that would be good. Start listening to myself on Rumble and then everything echoes. Apparently, there has been an echo on Rumble for the last couple of days. I'm looking into that at this time, but my audio setup is not exactly 100% in this particular location. In the future, I would like something a little bit more advanced, but you can't seem to get the most modern Yeti microphone. I've got one back in Rutland, works pretty well. Doesn't seem to be available anywhere here in the Netherlands, actually. I've been looking for it. One of the higher end ones, not the blue, not the old Yeti, but the upgraded version, Yeti Pro or whatever the fuck it's called. All right, let's refresh this and make sure we're live on Rumble. I believe I am. There are people watching. Are you watching a blank standby logo? No, I am live. Okay. And Rumble Rants is working, which is always good. They still haven't fixed that thing where it automatically drags all the way down to the bottom. They need to do that. It's very important. Yeah, Zombie Cartman, that's actually what I'm using now, an AT2020. But I don't have a proper setup for audio purposes at this time. All right, we're going to talk about the main news of the day. This is a big one, and it's predictable. I predicted it. I think all of you did. Based on the polls, there was basically no chance of it happening any other way. Representative Liz Cheney loses her primary in Wyoming to Trump-backed challenger. Trump sought revenge for Cheney's vote last year to impeach him, and her work on the House committee investigating him neither endeared her to GOP voters in the state. She lost by 37 points. Disclose earlier reported that it was the fourth largest single loss by an incumbent since the 1960s in such a race. I'm not sure. I haven't fact-checked that, but it's believable. 37 points is more than I expected as the upper limit. I expected it to be between 20 and 30, and I figured 35 is something that I wished for, and it was, possible. It would be more likely to be higher than lower, but I didn't hope for 37. This is not just a loss, to be clear. This is an outright repudiation. And they're trying to astroturf this as just, Wyoming rubes, the crazies out there that Liz Cheney does not want to represent, hence why she lost her job. They kicked her out because of Trump. It wasn't just that. It's the principle of not doing what your constituents want you to do. They did not want you to vote for impeachment. If you had done like a Cornyn on gun control, he's hazarded too now in the future, or a Romney or something, you can expect there to be potentially political retaliation against you. She has now lost her job. She's a lame duck. She'll straggle on for a couple of months. Midterms come, she's out. I have no doubt whatsoever that she'll keep on in politics at large. What form this takes is anyone's guess. I think she's angling more towards the pity me, I'm a strong, empowered woman, and Trump is the evil misogynist thing, and try to get a slot on like MSNBC or like a consulting position with CNN or something. I'm thinking that's the most likely trajectory. She could do the book deal thing and go on the pity me party and go to rallies, which 10 people would attend. She can do the fundraising thing. She could join the DNC. She's effectively been kicked out of the GOP at large at this point. She'd have to run as an independent if she runs another campaign. And some people are talking about her launching an independent run for the presidency to try to block Trump. While this is possible, I think that the minuscule number of votes that someone like Liz Cheney would get in the end, she can, but I mean, who's going to fund her? The neocons are disappearing left and right, so if effectively any funding that she gets would have to come from the Democratic Party. It'd be very funny to see an independent candidacy by Dick Cheney's daughter getting funded by the Democrats to try to stop Donald Trump. Let's just put it that way. In 2024, if that happens, it'll actually be a good thing because it'll be so funny. And I don't think it would stop him, by the way. Sparky, greetings, Sticks. Well, greetings to you. Alexandru Popovici, clank clank from the free state of Southern Carolina. Thank you. Doc Holliday, ding dong, Miss Piggy is dead. No, politically she's down and out, but she's not necessarily KO'd. She will be continuing in a political capacity for some time to come, unfortunately. She's going to be one of those bad jokes that never goes away. It'll be a little bit like Beto, maybe. White Knight Leo, see the statement from S&W CEO? No, I haven't. Sounder Siren 07. Bye, Felicia. Senate results estimate. Yes, we'll be talking about those as well. We've got the Alaska race. Actually, we've got Palin and hers, and then we have the Murkowski v. Chewbacca race, actually. I always want to say either Chewbacca or Ciabatta. See the name. Sometimes it does help to have a more easily pronounced last name when you're in politics, by the way. Just saying. Joshua Beckett, prediction, Biden dies of natural causes 8 to 12 months before the end of his term. Kamala is first female pres, but won't run. Set stage for Cheney to run for the Dems. No, I don't think that will happen. And then Cheney would have to officially switch parties first. She hasn't done that yet. Harvey, thank you, Trump, for destroying the Bush neocon GOP. Yes, the Cheney dynasty has effectively been ended as of this day. Jack Perry, Alaska's a weird state. See him in November. Go Palin. Yeah, I mean, the Democrats really have to go out on a limb to be bad enough for me to be rooting for Sarah Palin. Of all things for a political office, they really have screwed up. Drexkin, hey Sticks, your opinion on the seemingly out-of-place social media response to Liz Cheney's loss. She is only popular with the political elite, so walls of anti-Trump MAGA replies to anyone poking fun at her loss feels off. Yeah, a lot of astroturfing by Dems. They actually like her. She hasn't gotten the memo and changed parties yet. Control order balance. EVs are a meme, especially in this economy, but do you think hybrid vehicles may have been a viable option? They seem to have certain advantages, yeah. Fitzcarraldo, Liz Cheney can be the new fifth seat on The View. There's been talk of that. You could do worse. It'd be funny because she has that sourpuss face and the humorlessness, so she'd be the deadpan one on The View. Uranium Rabbit, Liz Cheney will be on The View. Yeah. Long Dong John, maybe Liz can go on a hunting trip with Daddy to make her feel better. Yeah, we all know about Dick Cheney's murderous proclivities. Joker won over on Rumble. Sticks, I was mistaken. She didn't lose by 12 points. Her only supporters were Jackson Hole money types. Her speech was a TDS encounter group therapy session for reality deniers. Yeah, we'll be getting into that. Don't worry. So yes, Cheney is out, but her response warrants its own section here on today's news roundup. Representative Liz Cheney compares herself to Abraham Lincoln following resounding defeat in Wyoming primary. Oh my God. This is like crack to me. Like, imagine Hunter Biden gets 10 pounds of crack. That's how happy I am seeing her response. Did I not, by the way, days ago, say that the big part about it isn't whether she wins or loses. It's really going to be how she responds to her loss, because she had a 100% chance of losing. I couldn't have asked for anything more. I'm almost glowing. You can tell. I'm extremely happy about her response. Former President Donald Trump celebrated Cheney's defeat, while Victor Harriet Hageman vowed to be accountable to the citizens of Wyoming. By the way, Hageman immediately doing exactly the right thing politically. Liz Cheney is whining and calling the constituents crazy and saying, well, basically, fuck the House position. I never cared about that anyway. I've got a bigger job to do. I've got to prevent Trump from winning. Hageman comes out and says, look, I'm going to do what the people of Wyoming actually tell me to do. That's all that they wanted. It's a far red state. If Liz Cheney didn't want to represent people that are effectively ultra MAGA supermajority, she should not have carpetbagged in Wyoming. She should have carpetbagged in a swing state, a lean blue state, a lean red state. She should have carpetbagged in, I don't know, Ohio or someplace like that, where she could get away with this more easily. She should have gone to Pennsylvania. She went to Wyoming, arguably the reddest fucking state in the union, with the furthest right, most pro-gun possible crowd, and carpetbagged her way, coattail rode her way in there on her name. Hey, my daddy was Dick Cheney. He was Bush's VP. Vote for me. That was basically her qualifications. And a significant proportion, if you look at the last races she's been in, of people that voted for her, they were Democrats. Some tens of thousands of people, possibly. Oh my God, though, I love this response. Following her primary election defeat to Harriet Hageman Tuesday evening, Representative Liz Cheney, R of Wyoming, used her concession speech to compare herself to former President Abraham Lincoln and hinted that her future in politics might not be finished just yet. Yeah, we know that you're not going to go away. That's the sad part. We're just reveling in the fact that you'll go away from Wyoming. When's the last time you were even in Cheyenne, dude? The great and original champion of our party, Abraham Lincoln, was defeated in elections for the Senate and House before he won the most important election of all. Cheney told a crowd of supporters in Jackson, Wyoming. How many supporters? Probably about 50 of them. Lincoln ultimately prevailed, saved our union, and defined our obligation as Americans for all of history. Yeah, just ignore the whole habeas corpus thing or the fact that emancipation wasn't even necessary because 5 Union states ended slavery on their own in the interim. We'll get past my disdain for the Abraham Lincoln worship cult for a moment, though. Abe Lincoln is still very much appreciated by the supermajority of Americans. Abe Lincoln was not hated by his own party. Abe Lincoln was not handed a 37-point fucking disgrace of a defeat because he ignored his constituents at the state level. None of these things are remotely applicable. You're not Abraham Lincoln. You're like a more bumbling version of Gerald Ford with the apparently the public chops of George W. in some of his worst latter-day moments post-Katrina. That's who you are. Your daddy worked for Bush. You're more like him. Long Dong John. Maybe Liz can go on a hunting trip with Daddy. Oh, I've already read that one. It's funny, though. Jack Perry, Alaska is a top 4 advanced to November state. Yes, they have that sort of primary. We will be talking about that. Palin will be in the running in the general, so will Chewbacca. Hair 2, finally got the show live. You're the best, Sticks. Thank you. I may be biased, but I think that I'm up there. And I know that my fans are the best. Yes, the Clankers are the best audience on the internet. Ian Angel, you should use some hairspray and give yourself a giant pompadour like Sleazy. I got my younger brother to subscribe to you and Martini. He's a fan now. Yeah, he's got 2 live shows a day to pay attention to. Like, what else more do you want in life? That and homegrown crops. Make your own chili and shit. God, I can't wait to do that. Luka Pilipovic, can you explain the 50K votes she got? I thought MAGA was popular with average Republican voter. Do these people just want to give the U.S. neocons? Will they fall in line or be spiteful about Trump? This is not just the anti-Trump vote that you see, though, with that 50K. Some of them are Democrats that literally crossed the aisle. Cheney was asking for them to do this. They took a GOP ballot in order to vote for her. So some are Democrats. Some are neocons, the anti-MAGA crowd. And some are people that they go by name recognition. They voted for her because she's the incumbent. Incumbency does have that effect. It's not a huge proportion of voters, but it's a measurable one. And this is the case in pretty much every race. Liz Cheney could have killed several children and mutilated their corpses and then driven her car through the halls of Congress, running people down, and she would still end up getting votes. No matter how abominable a person is, once they have that staying power of incumbency, some people will form a core fan base. People whose hand she shook, people who got kickbacks from her, in her case, major corporations. I love how all of the furthest left people are forgiving her for being Dick Cheney's daughter, for being a warmonger, for being anti-privacy, pro-censorship, deeply, deeply, disturbingly pro-deep state in every possible way, voting with the GOP, by the way, most of the time, voting with the McConnells of the party. But it's okay, because she's on the J6 committee. All of a sudden, all of you, I said this years ago, all of your sins can be forgiven by the lamestream if you just denounce Orange Man. The more fervently you denounce him, the more your sins are washed away. If I were to pretend to hate Donald Trump all of a sudden, to have like a road to Damascus moment sort of thing, I'm sure the Rational Wiki article on me would suddenly disappear. Just to be clear, it's definitely the easy fool's way out. R.T. Huxley, now we need Rand as VP and Bush going to prison. I wish George W. would go to prison, but it won't happen. Wolf on the Plains. Greetings from Clanking, Colorado. No Bush, McCain, or Cheney should hold office ever again. Reject the neocons and rhinos. Agreed. Sebastian Monroe. Sending you funds for the diaper chief as well as dab on the Davis Project. Neocon and rhino traders after the pig they backed lost. MAGA is dead. LMAO. They can't even start the Renegade Party. Skibbity bibbity. Miss Vicky says, Sticks is awesome. Oh, thank you. Mr. Repurpose, energy drink and diaper funds appear healthy enough. Here's cat mushy money. Yeah, I just got them more mushy food. They really like the lamb with carrot. That's the only one that both of them will eat is the lamb one. Farah will eat the chicken. Yana will eat the beef. Neither of them will eat the fish ones, though. So, I mean, those ones, they put them in the 12-pack, and I just fucking throw them out. Sparky, now recall McConnell, Graham, Romney, and other non-MAGA senators, they're pawns of the military-industrial complex. And a lot of them will be losing their jobs over the next 4 years. Highleaf 11 news just came in. Sorry, man, but we found 150,000 mail-in ballots and counted them all at 3 a.m. So Liz Cheney has won the vote. Just trust us. Yeah, there's a 0% chance of that. By the way, there were some people who said that there would be honking in the Wyoming election. And what I told them is simply that the gap is too large. There is no way to actually present to people a situation that would be believable in which Liz Cheney won, because it's a double-digit gap. The same is true, by the way, of Greg Abbott's run against Beto O'Rourke. He will win. The same is true in other races. I think Stacey Abrams might be on the chopping block because of that, too. There's no poll showing her ahead. They seem to be trying to astroturf with Rubio against, was it Val Demings, I think. I don't think that'll work either, even though, hey, if Rubio gets knocked off, nobody cares, including his own voters. Luka Pilipovic, to be fair, Liz Cheney may be more popular if she drove through Congress. Enjoying the streams, think they've been great. Not a bad point. Yeah, I'd probably earn her an extra 10 points. She still would have lost, though. So, yes, Liz Cheney is trying to compare herself to Abraham Lincoln at the moment. Just to be clear about how sheer the cope is, she's not really being fact-checked on this by any of the liberal media. She's being roundly panned by everybody else, but as far as the legacy media, and they're covering the thing heavily, other than Fox, and they're just sort of bemused by it. Nobody else is even calling her out on this. What the hell? What right on earth? What planet are you on that you think that this is a good use of your concession speech? It's going to look like you're a sourpuss and a sore loser. And that's really what she is. And it's not going to go well. I mean, if you do mount an independent run, you're going to need independent voters. Great way to start off your presidential campaign, Miss Cheney. Jesus. And I fucking love it. This is greater than when Hillary Clinton went on the Pity Me campaign after she lost. You remember, she spent 4 or 5 months. It was every other day I had to make a video. I think I made 30 or 40 on the subject about the different groups that she was blaming for her loss. It was misogynists, the pink pussy hat people not turning out at the polls enough, which is clearly wrong. The DNC didn't fund her enough. Her staff were incompetent. Podesta, basically everybody but her. Oh, Bill, he should have stopped philandering for a few years. If he had just kept it in his pants, I would have been Madam President. I'm sure that Bill would have loved that, playing second fiddle to his notoriously drunken and violent wife. Transylvanian 90, Cheney supports torture and Yang supports her, showing what a sellout he is. By the way, fact check, absolutely true. That was posted earlier. By the way, justifying torture by saying we do it to train our military in case they're captured is the worst justification. Yeah, exactly. The United States tortures inmates in some of these the facilities that it has, like Gitmo. And Liz Cheney thinks that's a good thing because she's a chip off the old block. Haverkamp Truth. The FBI is a threat to freedom. So are all pig sticks. Try being a homeless man and dealing with these donut-eating mofos all the time. Yeah, I can imagine. Troyamunga 000. My garden is going great. I've been growing loads of chili peppers and making my own buffalo sauce. The wings were great. Excellent. Yeah, make stuffed peppers. I did last night Indian style with mushroom and lentil and cheese on top and lots of good herbs and spices and shit. It was incredible, actually. One of the best things I've cooked, and I didn't even use a recipe. Ozzy's Robots. Murkowski seemed like a strategic mistake. Cheney was destined to go down in flames. A tad more focus and effort in Alaska may have eliminated her as well. I see a thumb down McCain moment in her future. The thing is that with the way their primary works in Alaska, you don't have to come in first. You have to be in the top 3. And they go on to the general. Or is it top 4? I think it's the top 4. In Alaska, and we do, I think, have actually, yeah, we have the numbers here. And they're reasonably current. Right now, in the Alaska U.S. House at Large primary, we'll just get on to the next news story in response to you. Mary Peltola, who is the Dem, is in first place with 35%. Palin's in a fairly close second at 31.4%, and Nicholas Begic, or Begish, is at 26.9%. So all 3 of them will go on to the end. What this means is there is a split GOP vote, but I think they used ranked choice, so it won't matter. The Democrats aren't going to take the House seat. It indicates a very high likelihood that Palin will end up being the one that wins there. And just a second here. Alaska Senate top 4 primary. You have Murkowski out in front with 43.7. You have Shibaka not far behind at 43. And then Patricia Chesbro, that's the Democrat in the race, at 6.2%. So basically, this is a two-person race. It is going to come down to whether more people, I believe, on the second choice want Shibaka or Murkowski. That is, they have their core audience. They give them their first votes. And then for other people, if there's no clear victor, I think it moves to the second ranking, and they count those up and add them, if I remember correctly. It's kind of a weird system, and it was designed to protect Murkowski explicitly. I don't know that it'll work, though. I mean, the gap is only a few thousand votes. I think how many have been counted? About 2/3 have been counted already. We'll see what happens as far as the movement in the end. But Shibaka, who is the Trump-endorsed candidate, will be moving on to the final 4 there. Palin will probably win the House seat. So Sarah Palin will probably be back in politics. What fucking year is it? Again, the Democrats really have to go out of their way to screw up bad enough for somebody like me to want Sarah Palin back in office. I'm not a Palin fan. She's an evangelocon. She's one of the Tea Party types I didn't really like. About the best thing that she ever did was sink John McCain's presidential chances by going rogue towards the end and making a fool of herself. That was good. I'll give her credit for that. Terrible running mate. Great patriotism from Sarah Palin on that one. Joker 1, in her speech, Cheney also railed against anyone second-guessing the FBI's Mar-a-Lago raid and called any hint of the FBI committing fraud a vicious lie. She's a spoiled turd. We got the same from Crenshaw, and we'll be going over that, by the way. And then if Cheney drove her car through the halls of Congress mowing people down, she might have gotten more votes. Lol. Probably. Then we have Metal Raider 2181 at 37% spread. Wow. That spread is more wild than the spread of COVID in a New York nursing home. Yeah, it was far beyond what was needed to humiliate Liz Cheney, which is why her concession was effectively a non-concession and an announcement that she didn't care about the race. It's sour grapes. Oh, I didn't really want to win. There's a reason I didn't campaign. She knew she was going to lose. It was all bravado. Nightwish fan 1991. She got blown the fuck out so hard. So much fun to watch. Hunter Wadley. How much will DeSantis win in November? Point margin? Not really a concerned citizen here. I give a 6-point margin for DeSantis in his win. Maybe 7. It'll be a fairly considerable margin. I don't think it'll be particularly close. I think here's the big thing. Here's my prediction here. Which one do you think? I should do a poll of this. Who wins by more? Greg Abbott over Beto O'Rourke or DeSantis over Crist? And Crist clearly will win. There is one freak poll that showed DeSantis behind in a general. 20 points off the spread, by the way, from the University of Florida, if I remember correctly, also showing Nikki Fried ahead of Charlie Crist. I think we can ignore that poll. It is well outside of the margin of error in both. When that happens, I think their methodology broke down at some point. I'm just wondering which one people think wins by a larger margin. Greg Abbott in Texas, gubernatorial slot against Beto, or DeSantis in Florida against presumably Crist. I'm going with Abbott. I think Abbott wins by a larger margin, but I think it'll be close. It'll be high single, low double digits in both, I think. High Leaf 11. Do you believe O'Rourke knows what he is talking about when it comes to guns? Quote, an AR-15 was made during the Vietnam War to hit soldiers in the helmet 500 yards away. Yeah, no, I don't think that he knows what he's talking about. There are rifles that are capable of that potentially, but an AR-15, I don't think the average person is going to be able to make that shot. Just saying, I think that's doubtful. Roscoe P. Coltrane, would you consider doing a Halloween special dressed like Pippi Longstocking? No, but I'm thinking about dressing up for Halloween for a stream. Do a special like 2-3 hour stream, spooky stream with pumpkins and shit like that. I do like to get decor behind me for that, but it's harder to find in this country than in the United States. Halloween here is a hipster holiday, and it's just barely begun being kind of introduced. And it's basically kids just want candy. So there's not as much of an offering. YouTube is dying. I was really hoping Murkowski was out in Alaska. Good for Sarah Palin, however, on her special election. Murkowski in her seat just had too much support. Murkowski has not actually won. That's not till the general election. She will have to face Shabaka in the general election. It's just that it's a very confusing process by which things actually happen. I can't tell you my prediction for Murkowski versus Shabaka. With the other race, with the House race, I would give an 85% chance that Sarah Palin will win in the end. Yeah. Michelle Bode. Hey, Sticks, Twitch is dead to you? Alas. Good to see you on Rumble. Well, I mean, they banned me. And I appealed. Not that I even expect a response, but they haven't given one after about a week. So I'm not expecting they'll even bother responding. And it doesn't really matter since I had like 100 people at peak watching me on those streams. Whereas I've got 4,300 on YouTube. I think I've got, almost 1,000 on Rumble. What the fuck do I care about Twitch for? Steady Eddie 1983 left. The cops plant evidence all the time. Also left. The FBI would never plant evidence. Yeah, exactly. Maybe they'll plant crack on Donald Trump. BW, but Stick, she had to pick a red state. How else would she be able to insult the voters? The audacity of the woman asked Democrats to run for her. Yeah, it was a complete cringe towards the end there. It reminded me a little bit of Mitt Romney's campaign. In the last month, he basically disappeared. He didn't really campaign. He actually didn't lose by 37 points, so he probably should have kept it up. Hey, Nick, Yoked Nick, on the perpetual motion stairs at the gym for 90 minutes, 10 minutes to go. I need one of those energy drinks. Lol, clank that like button. Yeah, you got to try one of these, my dude. They are absolutely fucking delicious. Julie Army Mom, Liz Cheney even warmongered in her concession speech. Old habits die hard when you're a member of the Cheney family. Joseph Rowland, not that I care much about rhinos and neocons, but do you think Rubio is going to lose his race? Hate to see a Democrat take that Senate seat. I still think he has a considerable advantage, but it's definitely one that's much less than other incumbent candidates. Tyler Morrison, you'd be a great tabletop RPG player or GM. I've never done like tabletop RPGs and stuff like that. I guess it would be fun. So, you order pizza and spend 5 or 6 hours fooling around or something, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like the sort of thing I'd really be into. Texas P12. Have you been paying attention to the Oregon governor race? No, I'll have to look into it. Scott Curtis, I Patch McCain. Any thoughts on Crenshaw being a WEF agent? Oh, he absolutely is. We'll be talking about Crenshaw and some of his dysfunction later. T. Jedwards, 18. I'm from Arkansas, and our governor, Ada Hutchinson, Rhino, says the GOP needs to back off criticism of the FBI. We can't get Sarah Sanders in here fast enough. Make sure to knock on doors. Luka Pilipovic, after sinking the Clintons, Bushes, and Cheney, shouldn't Trump be considered an American hero? Yes, if you were to go back in time 10 years and tell liberals that a man would come along and end the dynasty of the 3 most hated political families in the fucking country, liberals would say, who is it? Because we want to pre-register to vote for them. Democrats would line up around the goddamn block if they knew what Trump would do to these people. Now, all of a sudden, that's not a thing. Next story. So we've gone over that. So Murkowski is in first place, but it's close. And Palin is the main Republican in the race there. And of course, the 2 Republicans splitting the vote, of course, they will be on one another's second ballots 90% of the time. So Sarah Palin's got a pretty good chance of winning. DOG admits to over-collecting evidence at Trump passports. I can't actually read the side of this because there's a video stuck in the way. That's very interesting. Formatting error. In an acknowledgement, the FBI over-collected evidence during the Mar-a-Lago raid. The Justice Department informed Donald Trump's team Monday that agents seized the former president's passports and are obligated to return them, Just the News has learned. The department was making plans Monday evening to return the passports and has also alerted defense lawyers. The FBI may have obtained materials covered by various privileges that will be returned in the next 2 weeks, 2 sources told Just the News. By the way, normally on Just the News, I would say, well, maybe I want more meat on the bones. This sounds speculative. Sources close to the matter, I tend to distrust, even if it's from an outlet that actually conducts some journalism, unlike CNN or Fox. That being said, the passports were returned earlier to Donald Trump. So I'm thinking that these sources might not be full of shit. If that's the case, all hell breaks loose because it means that there are actually documents there that were improperly taken that are protected by attorney-client privilege. And the FBI, when it was there, didn't bother to go through them to figure out whether that was the case, despite the fact that they were in open communication with Trump's legal team for 4 fucking months, which means that they knew that some of those documents were. But they wanted to take them off site, photograph them, get a hold of them, look at what was in it, and then quietly return it. That's going to be a real big legal problem, I think, for the DOJ in the future. And so it goes beyond overcollection. It goes into the realm of misconduct. Potentially a reason to literally have a case thrown out of court. Of course, I don't think that the DC judge, partisan as though he would be, would do so, but there would definitely be some shenanigans going on. That's this is pretty high end. This is like an 8 out of 10 on the doozy scale, actually, and nobody's even fucking talking about it. DOJ has designated a process for separating materials that could be covered by executive privilege or attorney-client privilege, the sources said. That's fine, but Trump is saying it's all covered under executive privilege and a significant proportion under attorney-client privilege. And you're going to have to prove, I mean, if you bring a case against him as the prosecution, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt the guilt. Trump will simply say, I discussed all this shit and declassified it de facto long ago when I was president. You can't do jack shit about it. It's no longer classified. I can take these papers and dump them out of the side of my private helicopter over a populated area for the world to see, and you can't do jack to me. And they have to show beyond a reasonable doubt that those conversations were not actually had. I don't think there will be any charges against Trump, not unless these people are really goddamn beyond their ken. Stephen Nizick. I've heard that Dick and Liz Cheney had a falling out with Dick's younger daughter, Mary. Do you think Mary Cheney was ecstatic over last night? I don't know. I don't get into their family business. I just know that they're Cheneys and therefore not to be trusted. Ian Angel, off topic. Have you ever done occult work on the founding fathers, if there is any, like Ben Franklin, for example? There are mentions of them in a lot of Masonic literature, especially from the early 20th century. It was interesting one time, and I've related this story before. I'll get into this briefly. I was editing a fortune-telling work. I can't remember which one it was. And at the end of it, it advertised other books. And one of them was the Thomas Jefferson fortune teller or something to that effect. It was allegedly a book used by Thomas Jefferson for divining oracles. Now, of course, it's a misattribution, just like with Napoleon and Bismarck and some of these other figures, and obviously doesn't date to the late 1700s. It was a 19th century creation. But by God, I tried to search any way that I could for any information on that book, and unfortunately, it may be an extinct manuscript. By the way, if you have any interesting self-published shit ever, like that you got at a book fair or a yard sale or something, make sure to take good care of it and digitize it too, because it may be the only copy that exists. There are hand-printed materials out there by the goddamn millions that the world will never see otherwise. We must take up. Archival is forever. I am the archivist. Sir Ian, Clankfest 2022. Yes, today is a clanking day. Daryl Coleman, chances of Liz Cheney playing spoiler in 2024 Ross Perot style. I think she'd get less than 1%. It wouldn't be much spoilage. I genuinely don't think she has the capability of generating that kind of interest. The kind of people that would vote for her anyway in a ticket that was obviously doomed to lose, so they don't care about electability, are already going to stay home. So it doesn't mean anything. Iggy the Incubus. Now the real work begins. On the one hand, way for Cheney to out herself is not doing her job. On the other, she's right. Our work is nowhere near done. True. Some shenanigans. Sticks can't keep our name out of his mouth. He's obsessed. Romney? I don't know exactly who you're talking about. Obsessed with our name. Who? Liz Cheney starts with an L. I don't know who. I genuinely don't know who you're referring to. Branch Covidian 19. Sticks, consider getting a Colt King Cobra 357 Magnum when you get back. I do want a 357 revolver. Those are fucking sweet. Two-wheeled prepper. Thoughts on people camping out chasing off mules? Sounds like a good idea, depending on its legality, depending on state and local law. I am right. Have you seen the Dick Cheney movie Vice? There's like a documentary on the Cheneys? No, I haven't. Michelle Shively, Diaper Fund. Thank you. Django Geek. Do we know for a fact that what the process is for POTUS to declassify documents, and do we know Trump turned over everything he was legally obligated to? Well, the latter, of course, we know that they took whatever they wanted, so clearly they got what they wanted. The general declassification scheme is that Donald Trump decided while he was president to discuss the matter with another person, showed them the document, read out part of the document, etc. It automatically declassifies it. That's because we have to have that situation. Otherwise, the president can't discuss anything with anyone at any time without checking their security clearance credentials. It would be impossible for him to conduct diplomacy, foreign or domestic. It would be impossible to have any meaningful conversations with anyone. You'd have to be walking through a landmine of declassification. So if he simply claims in a court of law, assuming that he's charged, and again, jury's out, I don't think it happens, but we'll see. All he has to do is say, look, I had a closed-door meeting at some random, at Camp Davis, at Mar-a-Lago, the White House, New York, wherever it happens to be. I had a private conversation with an individual who I will not identify because that's privileged information about this document. Therefore, it's declassified. I'm not going to tell you anything further under executive privilege. Well, there you go. There's his legal defense. It's as simple as that. He might have to individually claim that for every queried document, which could take a while, but he can do that. Toxic mix. Don't be mad at Liz for ignoring her constituents. Garfield told her Wyoming was an old Italian word meaning no state here. Hunter Wadley, how's the court even going to handle this? It's unprecedented. I imagine a judge will just throw up their hands. Well, the specific judge that might preside over the case is definitely a friend to the Obama administration and a frequent DNC donor. That conflict of interest has been noted, including by elements of the fucking liberal media. We'll see what happens with that. Greasus Crust, you've seen the documentary Europa, The Last Battle. No, I haven't. Styx's wife, thanks to your selfishness, we have no loyal tools left. Oh, at first I was like, what? And then like, oh God, it's the toolbox dude again. I like your trolling, my friend. Top notch. You are a grade A clanker. So yeah, the DOJ apparently overcollected evidence. The passport thing is really problematic, and apparently some of them were expired anyway. It's not because Trump was a flight risk. They gave them back to him. Apparently it was like old diplomatic passports and shit like that. No, Patrick D, that's not actually my wife. That's the toolbox troll. That was a good one. You confused me for a second there. GOP reps Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm sorry, that's funny. And Dan Crenshaw are feuding again. Uh-oh, mommy and daddy are fighting again. This time over whether the FBI should be defunded over the Mar-a-Lago raid. Yes, indeed. Dan Crenshaw is simping for the FBI, saying everything's fine. We don't need to defund the FBI. We don't need to look into anything. I'm MAGA, but I'm sensible MAGA. Echoes of DeSantis, by the way. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, no, fuck it. We need to get rid of the FBI. The FBI was originally incepted many decades ago as an emergency measure. There's been no need to have an FBI now for about 60 years. That era's over. Bye-bye. I know that the silent gen types like Biden still remember the tail end of the Tommy gun era when it was recounted on whatever they were watching on TV land. But that's not reality anymore. It's not how crime works. It's not how embezzlement works. It's not how the modern drug war and soaring rates of addiction work. It's not prohibition and Tommy guns and Italian dudes with felt hats wandering around out in the mountains and getting a bunch of rednecks to make moonshine for them. That's not the nature of crime today. There's no reason, there's no impetus to continue funding the FBI. Everyone always tries to claim that they have some major role to play in law enforcement. Dude, local law enforcement does 90% of the work and the states can handle the rest. If you want national and even international cooperation, automate it. A goddamn computer can do the entire work of the FBI. It's not necessary, and it overlaps with a half a dozen other groups. It overlaps with state policing. It overlaps with federal police in general, marshals, etc. It overlaps with the CIA. It overlaps with the ATF. Where does that leave the FBI? What's the fucking purpose? At the very least, you should massively shrink it and remove most of its purview. Yeah, why don't we just have a middle-of-the-road result? We cut the FBI in half and remove about half of its regulatory power and et cetera, and call it a day. It'd be an improvement on what we've got now. Dan Crenshaw will call it communism, I guess, and Marjorie Taylor Greene would call it cucking. Be very interesting. Stephen Martinelli, their name was some shenanigans. Lol. No, it said Styx's wife on my end. Vaso, here's money for your future farm. Ooh, nice. By the way, look into Korean natural farming. It's a process of creating fermenting indigenous microorganisms into fertilizer. Requires less water and your crops will thrive. Cheers. That sounds like terra preta, which is something that I've actually done before. You take carbon-rich material, charcoal, pound it up fairly fine, mix it in with the soil, and then nitrogenate it. And it creates a host of areas for microorganisms. I'm wondering if that's similar. It probably is. I imagine there's quite a bit of carboniferous soil there. Then you can put kimchi in it. Silky Johnson, are there any files a president cannot declassify? I don't know that that's actually established to be the case. Some people say he can't declassify nuclear secrets. I've seen no corroboration of a specific law that would supersede his constitutional executive authorities saying so. Joe C., do you think the new IRA law will hurt Joe Manchin's re-election? I know it won't be in the near future, so I fear some would have a short-term memory, or Manchin got so many goodies for the state they forgive him. It could hurt him. Again, Manchin being a useful idiot, but he does have an incumbency, relative popularity on some things, so I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. Yes, Lost in Tunes, Biocharcoal. So yeah, Dan Crenshaw is defending the FBI. I like this. Green hit back at Crenshaw, calling out Republicans who never take bold actions. She's right. Crenshaw said Green was unserious for pushing to defund the FBI. What's unserious about it? That suggestion is being made by a large proportion of the population. Hey, Dan, you want to lower taxes? Let's save money by cutting the massive FBI budget. What's the fucking point of having them? Again, every service that they provide, and not necessarily well, is already provided by some other local, state, or federal group or agency. So what's the fucking point? Oh my God, we'll all die. If it weren't for the FBI, people will sell crack to school children. Dude, in the ghetto, that already happens. The small-time crime isn't even what they focus on. Fuck the FBI. Who cares? Sparky, FBI was looking for Spygate evidence that Trump bragged he had against them, and the CIA to punish Trump refusing to drop his civil RICO lawsuit the day before the raid. Top secret docs are a cover. Yeah, you've stated that before, and it is entirely possible. But we'll just analyze from the mainline story. For the purposes of legal analysis, Trump is already in the clear, and now it looks like the DOJ stretched too far and might have accidentally broken its own laws. I am right. Razor sticks. Jill Biden tests positive for COVID. Uh-oh. Jill Biden has COVID. Oh, no, she's got isn't Biden on number 3 as far as being infected by that shit? Yeah, he's a really healthy dude. He's gotten COVID 3 times in a row. They tried to excuse it the second time. They were like, well, it's just a resurgent case. You know, the Paxlovid, he stopped using it, and then it came back, and that happens. Okay, I think we're on time number 3 now. Don't you think maybe he has a chronic infection now? Maybe he should resign. Maybe he should cough all over Kamala first, though, please. Primark Vulcan, the hypocrisy is palpable when the Dems claim Trump was illegally holding on to nuclear materials when Clinton literally sold our nuke secrets to China. Fact check, mostly true. Yes, you'll remember Bill Clinton gave nuclear technology to the North Koreans, a state we were, by the way, at the time technically at war with. And people thought it was a great thing because he got an assurance from them that they would only use it to start a nuclear reactor so they could advance their economy. I do seem to recall very, very little pushback against these things. Interesting. Sparky, go FBI, take the CIA with you. And at least the CIA have aviator sunglasses and cocaine. Gabe Collins, hi Sticks, my question pertains to the Toxins Exposed Act. Do Republicans hate veterans so they block the act? Or, and this is what I believe, was it full of pork spending and that's why they blocked the act? Thanks. The latter, quite clearly. It's a bloated piece of pork. The actual burn pit compensation part of it is a minority of the bill. It's like if you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, which isn't going to reduce inflation regardless. What's in it? Expansion of the IRS. That has nothing to do with inflation reduction. Massive handouts for EVs. If anything, those handouts increase inflation. It's speculative that in 10 years you might see a return and stuff like that. That's hundreds of billions of dollars from that bill. It's more than half of the bill between those two things. It's Solyndra 2.0 on steroids and an expansion of the IRS. It doesn't have anything to do with inflation. Same with this. Yeah, it's wonderful. The idea of guarding our troops against toxic burn pits that might give them brain damage. What proportion of the bill's wording actually deals with this? I would like a mathematical analysis of this. Over on Rumble, we've got Rider of the Metal Horse again. All laws should be as short as possible, painfully specific, and as easy to understand as possible. No legalese that allows the system to indulge their totalitarian whims. Do you agree? Why or why not? I agree. They should be kept terse so that the average person who's being represented by that law can understand it. BJ Gamer, do you think the Republicans will sit the House California 22 and Washington 4 out to prevent the remaining Trump impeachers out? I don't know. My apologies when I read your comments on Rumble, if I'm reading them, because it jumps all the way down to the bottom every time somebody comments. So it makes it extremely difficult to actually get to the super chats there. And I wish that Rumble would fix this for desktop users. Sparky, Lucky, Jill's a great doctor, according to Whoopi. Yeah, she can treat herself. She's a medical professional, right? Alien Baby, get a SIG P320 extend when you return. Same feel as a P320, but in 10 millimeter. Avoid revolvers because we're in the time of riots, so capacity is paramount. You can get revolvers with a good capacity that'll carry 8 or 9 shots. It's not much different from some handguns. I don't know. I mean, if I'm going to go with something like that, it'd be 9 millimeter, though, not 10 millimeter. And I've already got a Glock 17, so I've already got it. Now, Minneapolis Teachers Union agreement stipulates white teachers be laid off first, regardless of seniority. The agreement reached last spring exempts teachers from underrepresented populations from seniority-based layoffs. So normally, you got a teachers union. Teachers been there 30 years. They're probably not going to get laid off unless they really, really suck, and the union will usually protect them anyway. But now it's only being extended to certain groups of people. And it happens to be based not on the content of their character in the classroom, but on the color of their skin. How lovely. An agreement between the Minneapolis Teachers Union and school district states that white teachers will be laid off before teachers of color, regardless of seniority. So if 2 teachers both have 10 years experience, and you're laying off 2 teachers, and whoops, you guys don't have seniority, so we're laying one of you off, it will be the white teacher. The actual competence of their students will not count. Their background, their education will not count. How widely accepted they are by the community, how well they're doing in general in an educational sense will not count. The white teacher will be out. Well, this is racist, to be clear. There is no other way to put it. Very, very strange that people actually think this is a good idea. It's like they're actually still trying to defend Harvard's affirmative action-based racial quotas for students in their admissions policy, bringing it before the goddamn Supreme Court because they just won't shut up and sit down and realize that their admissions policy is flat out illegal. It's the same thing. I imagine that this will end up getting injuncted by a court at some point, by the way, even though it is in Minneapolis, so we're talking far blue land. The agreement further goes on to say that when reinstating teachers, the district shall prioritize the recall of a teacher who is a member of a population underrepresented among licensed teachers in the district. Cue every male teacher in Minneapolis proclaiming themselves to be transgendered, by the way. There is an easy way around this. Would underrepresented include women, a supposed minority group, even though it's 50% of the population, and I believe more than 50% of teachers? Are they going to call themselves transracial? I mean, if the person's transgendered, then which one makes a bigger impact? So they're going to reinstate 2 of the laid off teachers, and one of them is black, but the other one says, look, I may be white, but I'm transgendered. I'm taking hormones and stuff. Well, I'm more underrepresented than the black person. There's more black teachers in the district than there are transgendered teachers. Fucking you have to rehire me. Otherwise, you're violating your own rules. This is going to be very, very interesting. According to the Star Tribune, 50 teachers of color will be losing their positions this fall due to cuts tied to enrollment losses. Yes, I mean, this is in response to the fact that in some school districts around the country, a lot of parents are withdrawing. They're trying to find a private school or they're homeschooling because the schools did such a bad job with lockdownerism. That's hilarious. They need people who, students need educators who look like them, who they can relate to, the document says. So you're not going to say, oh, well, you look like a human, and I'm human too, so there's some camaraderie. No, they have to be the right color. Can you imagine if a fucking school district were to do this, and they were saying this about white students? Well, we need teachers that look like our students. So we're going to prioritize laying off people of color. that basically the modern equivalent of the 70s, colored people, by the way. I hate when the Democrats use that term because it's literally, it's bigoted. David Ford, 9mm sold out very quickly. 10mm and exotics were the only things left here. Yeah, there are advantages to having an exotic caliber for a weapon. Brian Sanborn. Did you see Joe Biden was not wearing a helmet riding bikes in South Carolina? Does the Secret Service have it in for poor old Joe? Diapers and helmets mandatory. Yeah, you'd think after his multiple falls, that would be a priority for them. Probably knee pads, too. Sparky, Garland's proven to be a mealy-mouthed sister boy. And then let's see here. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Despite Biden denials, most say we're in a recession and government is to blame, according to a TIPP poll. It's a supermajority of Americans, or near supermajority. 62% believe the U.S. is in recession, including a tripartisan majority of Democrats, 51%, Republicans, 74%, and independents, 56%. That compares to an overall 18% who say the economy isn't in a recession and 20% who say they're not sure. We are in a recession. It's official. We've already hit the official definition. Every economic indicator other than unemployment right now is negative. Business confidence, consumer confidence, the growth of wages as opposed to the growth of costs. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. There is no positive indicator there. We're in a recession. The fact is that they realized that they couldn't con the majority of the population into thinking that we weren't, so they just tried to sow discord over the definition to get that 20% of people who aren't sure. Well, you can be sure. Of course, the United States is in a recession. And we'll probably have a 3rd consecutive quarter of negative growth, by the way. J.G. Lovecraft here for the Morning Clank. So, yeah, we're totally not in a recession. Rudy Giuliani informed he's a target of probe into Trump's alleged election interference in Georgia. Giuliani, Trump's former personal attorney, was ordered last week to testify in the Georgia investigation in person on Wednesday, so they continue to persecute people close to Trump. I think they're afraid of some of the people around him. Basically, anyone who hasn't thrown Trump under the bus all of a sudden gets dragged before committees and judges constantly to try to waste their fucking time. He is a target of the criminal investigation in Georgia by former President Donald Trump and others, his attorney told NBC News. It's funny when you're a lawyer, but you have to get a lawyer. The lawyer, Robert Costello, said as part of their efforts to compel Giuliani's testimony, Georgia prosecutors initially told New York courts Giuliani was a material witness. But Costello said Giuliani's lawyers were informed Monday that he is a target of the probe. So they pulled the old switcheroo, I suppose. Giuliani, Trump's former personal attorney and former mayor of New York City, was ordered last week to testify in person Wednesday before a grand jury handling the case. Yes, the dude that took down the mafia is totally a Russian asset who's trying to sell our country downstream. It's not all of the bankers and corporate interests and sleazebags that we know are corrupt. They're angels now. They're trying to save us against the evil Trump. So we need to make sure that Giuliani gets dragged before a court too. Why don't you leave the dude alone because he did nothing wrong? Same with Roger Stone and Bannon and many others. You don't have to like everything that they believe in. They've all said things that I find personally questionable, to tell the truth. Trump, too, by the way, and the people around him in general. That does not mean that they should be legally persecuted. These are private citizens. They have certain rights, and their rights are being continuously fucking violated. It's horrendous watching liberals sell out and support this witch hunt charade, which is exactly what it is. By the way, we've got many more than 20 Biden loser units now. I think we're close to 7,000 live viewers yet again. We keep getting up above the 7,000 mark. It was 2,600 a few weeks ago. I think that something is going right with these live streams. Maybe the fact that I'm making a concerted effort to make them roughly at the same time every day. Bara7331, over 5,300 watching on YouTube. Hit the like button. Yes, when you like the stream, it does materially help me, by the way. When you share it out, it helps me even more. Demon Strauss, $10. Thank you. Now, George Gomes, get a 7.5 millimeter FK Burno if you have $7,500 hanging around. No, I'm not going to spend that much on a gun. I do have a budget, actually. Although I will be getting a couple more firearms when I'm back in the U.S. I don't know which ones, though, because there are plenty that I want to get. I really want a tactical pistol. Those are cool. I would like a 357 revolver. I want to get a 22 rifle, just something for plinking and garden defense, basically. And I'd like to get an anti-material rifle, something really high-end at some point, but I think that I'll wait on that because I don't think I need to kill any rhinoceroses anytime soon. Stephen Nizek, can we see the percentage of Californians and New Yorkers who actually believe we're in an economic boom? Lol. Yeah, but it's the ones with the money that control all the newspapers. They think we're in a boom because for them, business is booming. Microkernel, I was glad to participate yesterday in the ouster of Liz True Grift Cheney down here in Cheyenne. God bless you and have an excellent day. Good that you voted for Hageman. You are one of the many people who did. Great day altogether. Clankalicious. Iggy the Incubus, asked by Willie Geist if democracy is at risk in the midterm elections. White House Chief of Staff says we are seeing a challenge to that now. BC, we used to have democracy we use the democracy to destroy democracy, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the idea is that the Wyoming voters they made the wrong decision so that it's somehow irrelevant. They shouldn't make a decision at all. We need to take the right to vote away from these rubes. Eaters of the dead. What is happening in Alaska? Is Murkowski going to hold on to her seat? If there are 2 or 3 Republicans against 1 Democrat, defeat the purpose? No, because they use ranked choice in the final result. So that's not quite how it works. To be clear, Murkowski may have an advantage, but it's not a significant one. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. As far as the House seat, Palin almost certainly wins. There's no support for the Dems in that seat. As you can see, add up the votes per party, and then you'll see you'll get a better understanding. Brian Zvart, I told Anomaly to get his TDS vaccine. Ha ha ha. Enjoy being blocked by his pussy ass. YouTube is dying. Does a Georgia council against Giuliani regarding the voting not entail they have to prove the election was not honked? Or is it unrelated? Well, no, the burden of proof would be on the claimant, which would be Giuliani in that particular case. I'm not sure why they would want to charge him, though. What the fuck are you supposed to charge him with? Having an opinion? You may be able to ban someone from YouTube for having such an opinion, but you can't put him in jail. Pet, 22 rifle must be a Ruger 1022, fully customizable to your heart's content. I will look that up later. And then we've got a dementia moment. Unfortunately, we have another one from Joe Biden. Links in the description, by the way. This one's not archived because it's actually video footage. This is Biden signing the tax and spend bill, which is billed as the Inflation Reduction Act. Please note that particular look on Joe Biden's face after he signs the bill when people are clapping is something that is very stereotypically characteristic of Alzheimer's disease. That very particular look, the vacant, sort of slightly wide-eyed expression, slightly agape mouth, looking around, slow movements, not quite fully knowing what's going on, and sort of trying to collect your thoughts because you're confused, that is a sign of Alzheimer's, potentially. I say this unfortunately because I've seen people with Alzheimer's disease, including a loved one. I've spoken about that. Having been in nursing homes, you see that quite commonly. That is the look of dementia, to be clear. Well, one of them. There are various signs, and it's not really a fun topic. I mean, I'm not even going to make fun of Biden over it because it's a heartbreaking scenario for anyone. But that is, I hate to tell you, that is Alzheimer's, what you're seeing there. That is dementia. We've known this, though, for quite a while. He's had early warning signs of it for 2 years now. Before that, basically, when you get up to above 75, your memory is going to start going. You're going to do the verbal fumbling thing. You're not going to be as fit as you used to be. It's impossible. But there's a difference between you're getting a little bit older, your memory's a little run down. Sometimes you misplace the fucking remote. Sometimes you shit yourself. There's a big difference between that and dementia. They're night and day. It slowly robs people of their cognitive faculties on every level. The degree to which it advances, of course, is different from person to person. One person might be in the early stage for 10 years. Another person, like Joe Biden, over the course of a year or two, advances fairly steadily. Unfortunately, in Biden's case, he's advancing relatively normally, which means it's questionable now in my mind whether he finishes out his term. if I'm seeing this sort of sign, and he's not even 2 years in, can I really think of him running for the presidency? And the answer is no. If he has a moment like this while he's up on a debate stage, the debate is over who wins, and it happens to be his opponent. Sir Talks a Lot 92. Will we get Trump 2024? Will they charge him before then? What are your thoughts? Hoping and praying we get Trump back, my man. I think there's a pretty good chance he runs, a fairly good chance he wins if he does run. And as far as them actually charging him, they'd be crazy to do so, but they might be crazy enough to try. That doesn't prevent him from mounting a campaign. The fact that he's been charged with a crime is not a conviction in any way, shape, or form. So yes, unfortunately, Joe Biden clearly, I mean, this is in my mind proof, actually, having seen this particular vacant expression. This is proof that he has Alzheimer's disease. You'd think that at some point it should be on his Wikipedia. Hey, the first president with clear signs of dementia, at least since the last couple of years of Ronald Reagan's second term. We see no such thing from Trump, but people constantly astroturf that they're worried about him having cognitive decline. Of course, when you get up in your mid-70s, it's something you got to worry about. Trump ain't exactly eating Big Macs as often anymore, I assure you of that one. Leo C. Sticks, a big part of the success of these live streams is the sense of community we get in live chat. You and your freedom-loving fans lift my spirits. I appreciate that, and I feel sort of the same. Although I do have to keep slow mode on, because otherwise I'd never actually get to read a single super chat. Alien Baby AR-15s have interchangeable bolts, so you can run 22 through your 5.56 with a 2-minute change. So train with a 22 on your defense gun, AR-10 for materials. Yeah, I know, they're infinitely customizable. I'm considering the possibility, although I don't know. I kind of want an M14 style rifle with 308 more than anything else. I'm leaning towards getting one of those and then getting either a shotgun or the 357 revolver, and then calling it a day as far as the next time in the U.S. Because, I mean, what I don't want to end up doing is ending up with $50,000 of firearms on the wall and then being in the Netherlands and somebody breaks in. So even if you can secure them and you need to hide them away so that they're not obvious or something, I don't know that that's the sort of investment that I'm going to make. But I do want more guns. Michael Ferguson, if Trump wins, do you move back from Soviet Holland stan, or are you permanent Europhile now? I didn't move here for political reasons at all. I got married. You'll note that it was before COVID and before the 2020 election that I arrived in the Netherlands. I like it here and I like it in the U.S., so I'm going to travel back and forth between the two. There are advantages to both places. A lot more food availability here, especially for people like me that are getting into cooking Indian food and shit like that. A lot of gardens, huge amount of greenery here. And the Dutch people are very nice and welcoming as well, which is great. U.S., you've got guns. I'm more familiar with the surroundings in Vermont, although Vermont is apparently falling apart in my absence. So yeah, I'll go back and forth between the two. Very cosmopolitan life. Sir Talks a Lot 92. If we are talking guns, the Yugoslavian SKS 762 is an excellent choice. Yeah, there are a million possible guns to buy. And then we've got our last story here, and I'm only talking about this because the latest allegations and shit happened in the state of Vermont. Speaking of the devil, Ezra Miller seeking treatment for complex mental health issues after period of intense crisis. I want to apologize to everyone that I've been alarmed and upset with my past behavior, Miller, 29, said in a statement provided by a spokesperson. By the way, I don't know if he's getting plastic surgery or just pancakes on the makeup, but he's looking more and more like a Bogdanov before the lip surgery. This dude has some fucking issues. You'll know him as the Flash, for those of you who are DC and Marvel nerds anyway. He was actually the main actor in, we've got to talk about Kevin, I believe it was called, which Liz has mentioned to me a dozen times, wants me to watch that movie. Doesn't sound like my shtick. Control, order, balance. Is Biden having dementia, making him too ill to serve? I would argue that's already the case, but they haven't removed him yet. So he's now seeking help. And considering the laundry list of weird shit that he's been up to lately, I don't really blame him. If you look at Ezra Miller, by the way, look at the Wikipedia page for Ezra Miller if you want to. If you want to have a laugh, go to the talk section. Most of the posts there are about pronoun usage because he identifies as non-binary. So the whole article is unreadable because they're using they and them. And so it becomes impossible to read. It's not grammatically proper. And people keep pointing this out in the talk section. They're like, nope, we're going to revert those changes. We've got to be respectful. We've got to be respectful of the dude who's allegedly grooming a 12-year-old at the moment, just to be clear. And I'm not talking about the LaToya Iron Eyes or whatever the fuck her name is girl, because she's now no longer a minor. That case, by the way, is really goddamn strange. If you leave off his first conviction for disorderly, which was long, long ago, and it involved weed, and he was like barely 20 or something at the time. Who cares? Don't give a shit about that. Yeah, since the middle of 2020, he has shown a steady downward spiral of behavior. We're talking multiple assaults. We're talking weird shit with female fans. We're talking everything out of the ordinary and saying weird shit too, like trying to taunt the police. And that one 12-year-old girl whose family now has, I guess, a protection order against him. He said something about her being like a cosmic personality. And clearly he was high and probably drunk at the time. The only reason I'm talking about this, though, now is because the latest problems happen in the state of Vermont. He had a family from Hawaii, and he's putting them up in a Vermont farmhouse, and that's pertinent to one investigation. And then more recently, not that long ago, he broke into a house and stole booze from someone. And I'm thinking to myself, how wasted do you have to be to break into someone's house for booze when you're a multimillionaire? Go to the store and buy your own booze. What's the point? Now he's taking a sabbatical. He's saying, well, I've gotten through a time of intense crisis. I think I need to take it easy for a while. Here's a memo. You're a multimillionaire. You're still a young dude. You're not even 30 yet. Why don't you just disappear for 6 months, take a break from the movie thing before you kill yourself or something like that, and go and sit in Hawaii where you're apparently used to on the beach and do absolutely nothing and just chill. Maybe you want to lay off the weed too. What kind of weed are you smoking that you're breaking into you're doing weird shit. You're saying weird shit about 12-year-olds. You've disappeared with someone who has like some tribal membership that allows the parents, even if they're an adult, to get like custody or something. That's a little bit weird. That story is beyond my pay grade to even weigh in on. But you're doing weird shit. You're breaking into houses. You're raising a ruckus and assaulting people. What the fuck? And this happens. I mean, on one hand, assuming he's not a groomer or something, and we'll just assume the innocence in the case, just for the sake of being devil's advocate here. In the absence of that, I feel sorry for the dude. He's clearly got something deeply wrong with him. I think, though, he's just drugged up. I think he's just messed up constantly. The Swamp Cleaner. I'd take a radical leftist pushing a remove men's junk bill than have neocon Crenshaw skulking around any longer. Yeah. Sparky. When named FBI director, it was no secret Chris Wray was anti-Trump. If Trump had at least done a quick background check himself, he'd have known. Yes, his hiring sometimes left a little bit to be desired. Damp Sock. I'm from Wyoming, and I say vote them all out. A good idea. Mr. Wonderful, Ezra Miller will soon identify as prison number 30327. Yeah, he's definitely on his way to having that happen. Vaso, fun fact, in Chinese medicine, we call this gaping mouth, Biden, exiting spirit or weak kidney essence. Kidneys anchor yang. Yang anchors the soul. When it's weak or about to depart, the open-mouthed look will be consistent. Yeah, I know there's palliative care would come to mind there. A person is they're clearly dying and their mouth is open, and keep their mouth swabbed and fresh so that they're not in more pain than they need to be. Sir Toxalot 92, have you been to my beautiful state of Montana? Kind of like the Vermont of the West Coast, I think. Breweries, mountains, distilleries, and lots of guns. No, I've never been west of the Mississippi River, actually. Or is Texas west of the Mississippi? I've been to Texas. Anyway, I haven't been to the western half of the United States. My apologies, geography teacher. A pet. Anti-material equals 12-gauge slugs in a Keltec KS7. Yeah, there's all sorts of good shit. So yeah, as far as Ezra Miller goes, again, the only reason I'm even mentioning this is because he's doing weird shit in Vermont now, and apparently they can't locate him and his activist girlfriend or something. It's just a weird fucking case. And he's a weird fucking looking dude. I'm almost thinking the fact that he looks weird, it does not help, by the way. When you look normal, it can help you in legal cases, just to be clear. It's like someone says, well, he was beating me up, but then clearly you're a little shrimpy dude with a wire mustache or something who's 5'0". It's better than if you're 6'6" and you're built like a brick shit house. Just to be clear, especially in front of a jury, appearances do matter. That's why people typically do not go into a court unshaven and unshorn and unwashed. It shouldn't really make any difference. The fact that the dude looks like a dirty hippie shouldn't make any difference over the dude who's wearing a suit as far as the evidence goes. But Ezra Miller is increasingly looking like a thinner version of a Bogdanov, and he's doing weird shit, and he's clearly fucking high as balls all the time. He's bragging about it. The Vermont case, they're alleging that he's growing weed unlicensed. Again, I don't give a shit about that, but there's a family there with like little kids and shit. There's a protection order or something. And he's smoking weed around little kids and saying weird shit to a 12-year-old. And you're not doing yourself any goddamn favors by then breaking into a house to raid the alcohol cabinet. Michael Ferguson, Montana isn't on a coast. No, but it's close to the West Coast, generally speaking. Sir Talks a Lot 92. I mean, West Coast is in Pacific Northwest in general. Yes. Andrus Burzins, this is the Sticks at the Grand Canyon Fund. Yeah, I've never been allured by the Grand Canyon because it's a tourist trap. Also, an Antifa member might push me over the side while I'm standing there gazing down 1,000 feet, for all I know. So I think that I'll skip that one. I don't know. I'd rather see Chimney Rock or something like that. That's probably a tourist trap, too. By the way, we do have 7,000 people watching effectively. That's pretty good. But anyway, we have gone through all of our news topics, including Ezra Klein there, the Flash, as in he'll be in jail in a flash if he fucking keeps it up. And you need to go into rehab. Something is deeply wrong with you. You're so hard up, you're so drunk that you're stealing booze, even though you could buy the whole distillery. How much is he worth? Let me look that up. How much is this fucker worth? I'm assuming he's worth $5 million. He's breaking into someone's cabin to steal their liquor cabinet. Yeah. Now, you won't be worth $5 million for long if you keep doing that. You're going to end up spending it all in your prison commissary getting the 2-ply toilet paper. I don't even like talking about like celebrity gossip and stuff like that. Why don't you not be in the state of Vermont? I would rather not see Ezra Klein in the restaurant when I go visit Rutland. That'd just be weird. I have a feeling it's not Rutland that he would be interested. I'm assuming more Burlington or the Northeast Kingdom or something. He's got his little cabin out there, his rape dungeon underneath or something. Kathleen Cohn, the Revolver article on the J6 bomb hoax is excellent. Sparky, wearing a CPAP can slow down or reverse dementia. I believe that is situational, and I do not know that it actually can reverse it. Just to be clear, that may be medical misinformation, so disclaimer. Don't ban me, bro. Butter a war, bring me more news, clank. Bleach Demon, just avoid Wall, South Dakota. It's a tourist sticky trap. Personally, I like New England. I like Texas. There are parts of Florida that are okay if you happen to be at least in the upper class, I suppose. I don't know. Washington State looks really nice if it weren't for the politics there. If Seattle were nuked from orbit or something, I guess Washington State would be on the top of my list for places to be. You've got mushrooms and pine trees and Bigfoot. What more do you fucking want? Catman FS, Monument Valley is something on my list. Keep it up, Sticks. Great stream as always. Clank. And now I think we've gone almost an hour 15, so I'm going to go offline here. I thank you all for all of those of you who watched, all 7,000 of you roughly, so good stream, I'd say. Oh, Classic Baseman, how are the Dutch farmer protests going? They are still ongoing, but most of it is not in this part of the country. It's mostly in the other half of the country. That's where they have the capital and the big city, which is Amsterdam, the capital Den Haag. Eaters of Dead. What other signs is Dan Crenshaw is a rhino? Literally everything. Name a way in which he's not. Sir Talks a Lot 92. I would highly recommend Glacier National Park in Montana and check out the Big Fork Inn restaurant in Big Fork, Montana near Glacier National Park. Highly recommended. Sounds yummy. Sparky, isn't Deep State afraid? Kamala's a loose cannon? Yes, definitely. Just to be clear, yes. So yeah, that's about all. Peace out.